And with the time fastly approaching the Ides of Ipswich, you're listening to Radio Flange Goblet. Yes, you are, where it's all pineapples all the time. Betty. Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the After Movie Diner. And back in the booths after a couple of weeks' absence, it's your friend and mine, the wonderful movie reviewer himself, and the regular co-host of the After Movie Diner, Sir James Wallace. Hello, sir. Welcome back.
Thanks very much. It's good to be back. It's been too long.
It's good to be back.
It's good to be back.
Good to be back.
Good to be back in the chair.
We've got to say it in a Nic Cage voice.
Back in the booth. Yeah, but even Nic Cage.
It's good to be back. Good to be back. Back in the booth. Back in the booth at the diner.
I'm walking it a bit.
So yeah, it's wonderful to have you back.
Thank you very much. It is genuinely really nice to be back. I have missed being on there, but I know you had other things.
And in the absence of sort of B movies or secondary movies,
what is up with because we wanted to go and see the John Cusack Jackie Chan one.
Right, which said it was being released this week, didn't come out in New York.
See, that's happening a lot, right? That happened with Jean-Claude Van Damme trying to get his kidney back. Why aren't B movies coming out in New York anymore?
I don't know.
It's really annoying.
I don't know. But
I know that every time we go to them, we're the only people in the cinema, but
not the only ones.
No, that's true. Even the Christian Slater one had like 10 or 12 people in it.
Yeah.
And we usually end up going on like basically the last night, don't we?
We go on a Wednesday and then that comes out on a Thursday. What I mean is it leaves the cinema on a Thursday.
Right, so basically the last night.
Yeah, but today's Monday, and in the absence of that, I have to thank the wonderful people over at the Katrina One PR agency who sent us a copy of Pay the Ghost, starring Nicolas Cage, which is right up our alley, I have to say.
Yes,
it is down our street and up our alley. It's that kind of movie that we enjoy watching. It's got Cage in it, for one, right? And we love a bit of slumming it, Nic Cage, B-movie Nic Cage. We're always a big fan of that.
Yep.
It had a supernatural horror element to it. Well, this is all we knew before we went in.
Well, you sold it to me as Nic Cage's son gets stolen by ghosts at a carnival.
Yeah.
And I was
on board for that.
Right for that.
I said it was Taken meets Ghosts. Sort of. So that's all we knew. So before
you could literally pick any other movie involving ghosts, and it would be more accurate than the film Ghost. Because
well, I didn't say the film Ghost. I just went
the kid doesn't follow Nic Cage around and sing to it, right?
No. So is that what happens in Ghost?
I think that's basically what happens in Ghost.
No, what I'm saying is, I didn't say it was like Ghost the movie. I was just saying it's Taken but with ghosts kind of thing.
Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
And that's all I got from the trailer.
Yes.
And that's pretty accurate.
I would say that's pretty accurate, yeah.
So, we need to do that thing that you always say before we start to review the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And that is, do the people want to watch it before they listen to our review?
I'd say a qualified yes.
I would say yes, too.
I think if you're in the mood... Okay, so me and Teresa like to watch... My wife and I, we like to watch horror films on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And all that our requirements are, because it's, we get Netflix, is does it get 3 stars on Netflix? Does it look kind of interesting? And on those criteria, we'll order up pizza and cannoli and watch like a couple of horror movies.
Right.
And we see really cool things that way.
Right.
And this would be perfect for that. Like it's definitely a good 3-star, solid. Really enjoy it.
It's a solid 3-star.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Right?
Yeah.
It has some 4-star elements in it, but it's just overall...
But it also has some 2-star elements in it.
Right,
Which is why
true.
I feel like it...
That's what I mean. It's a solid 3-star. I would recommend it as well, but I would recommend it on the caveat that it is more of your 70s atmospheric horror than it is... we thought maybe it would be Nic Cage being a bit bonkers.
It was distinctly less balmy than I was...
Yeah, we thought it would be a bit balmy, a bit nutso, and it wasn't.
No.
It was actually played very, very straight. But its plus points was that it was a ghost story, but without kind of, creepy, dripping kids crawling out of the TV set, or a lot of the tropes we'd seen before.
Yeah, it didn't have the
There wasn't really a possession element either.
no. There was no. To be fair, it was an attempt to tell. But then, okay, here's the thing about, if I may, just very quickly.
Sure.
The thing that I don't mind about a lot of modern horror films, like things like Insidious and whatever the one with the ventriloquist dummy was.
Conjuring. Oh, and Annabella.
Oh, Annabella, yeah. The reason I don't mind them is
Wasn't Annabella a Conjuring like
sequel, I think,
sequel,
maybe.
prequel?
Anyway, I'm not really sure.
Sequel, prequel? I don't know.
They turn up on Netflix or HBO Go or whatever, and
Right.
they're 3 stars, and somebody watches them. The one thing that I like about them, genuinely, is that they do all try and like establish their own mythology. They're trying to like tell a ghost story.
Right.
And it's not just, oh, she's been possessed by the devil, look at the creepy things that means.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, there was this thing and it happened and it's created this monster, and this monster does these things to people and whatever.
Right.
They are trying to tell a story, and it's not just repurposed stuff either. I think there's genuinely with those kind of movies, I think there is a thing going on where okay, not to get like too far out or anything, but it just occurred to me the other day, and I thought, I'd like to talk about that on the podcast.
Why stop
one day.
now? Dude?
Right. There's a lot of, and actually this film falls into it quite neatly.
Yeah.
There seems to be a trend in those movies, the more recent successful Hollywood horror movies,
Yeah.
where there's a thing where something in like America's past,
Right.
usually around like the time of its founding,
Sure.
something horrible happens, and the person that the horrible thing happened to holds people in the present accountable.
Grudges.
And it's not just a case of, oh, you're related to that, like in the 70s, but you're related to the person that did the thing or whatever. It's just, it doesn't matter. It's like, it's this non-specified revenge
It's more like
born out of the sins of America in the past, which seems to me to be some connection, or rather some expression of like, if, again, not to get too, but if there is like some kind of cultural subconscious of America, and,
Right.
and every time that goes by expresses that, then these films seem to be like post-Iraq, post-9/11, like, oh God, we're not like the most wonderful country in the entire universe. We've done horrible things to countries and people. And the thing that Americans fear more than anything is retribution for these unspecified crimes that they don't even know if they are
Right.
crimes, or were they justified or were they not. But all these movies are things reaching from the past to
It's also kind of
indiscriminately
like-
grab people. And
But
let
isn't it
their-
also like
take-
post millennium, like reaching into a new century kind of thing? The fact that with each new century, obviously America is getting older, and therefore its history seems sort of richer and darker and spookier.
Yeah, that's probably
and-
true. Yeah, I think that's fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I think the one thing that Stephen King did brilliantly was he to like. Okay, in this movie, Sleepy Hollow is referenced again, right? Sleepy Hollow has become this like spooky ghost story, like
Right.
a headless horseman, Sleepy Hollow. But the story is a joke. The story is a funny short story. You know the bit in Sleepy Hollow, the movie,
Yeah.
where he gets chased down by the guy wearing the thing on his head or whatever. Like,
Right.
that's the story. It's
Right.
just, it's a funny joke.
Right.
But it's become, because, every culture needs its, demons and its, horror stories. It's Dracula.
But he also talks about Poe and
of course.
Lovecraft.
Yeah,
Right.
and those are, but you're right. And so, the further those things get away,
Yeah, the more
from
gothic
you,
they become.
yeah, the less like pulpy they are,
Right.
and the more like a part of America's rich, dark, whatever.
Right.
That is, yeah, and like I said, like Stephen King, what he did was he made up monsters for a country that didn't have any monsters.
Right.
All Stephen King stories are boring small towns with these like mad, crazy, like never before seen or discussed monsters
Right.
living underneath them.
Yeah.
And that was that's why they like seized people's imaginations so much, because it was
Yeah.
this idea of like what's living underneath. And this movie is a part of this new thing, which is that somehow the past has access to the present. It's able to reach out
Right.
and grab people in the present and make
So I
them suffer.
haven't seen a lot of the Conjuring and Annabella and all that. I've just immediately dismissed
No,
them all, 'cause they
they're
look
all
pretty
right.
awful.
They're all right.
But
Okay, I'll tell you
Wrong with me.
this. There's very little people closing the cabinet doors in bathrooms and there's a ghost behind you.
Right, no, that's what I mean.
Or
lot
a
of-
cat on the windowsill.
Understood.
They do try and scare you in creepy ways.
Okay, so how much then because other people listening to this will have watched all those movies, and you've watched all those movies. How much then is this a bit of a shoddy retread, or how much of this is still doing its own thing?
I think this one is doing its own thing.
Because I thought it was doing its own thing.
Those ones tend to...
I felt this had something of, weirdly enough, because he was in the remake, something of the Wicker Man about it.
The reason this one is more like those 70s ones you're talking about, I think, than like Insidious or whatever. Although this one's similar to Insidious in terms of trying to create its own mythology, creating its own unique goes. Like they used to do back in the 70s. Like, let's create a monster out of whatever. Let's create a Candyman or a Freddy or whatever.
That's 80s.
Oh yeah, good point. Jason.
That's 80s.
Okay, so 80s then.
Well, end of 70s, early 80s.
Oh, fair enough. Are we ready to order?
Yeah. Shut your
Oh yeah, sorry.
Hi,
Hey, good, thank you. Can I get a backyard barbecue chicken?
That's without French fries. You want French fries?
No French fries, no, just a sandwich.
Yes.
And can I get a cup of chamomile tea?
Yes.
Lovely.
I'll get French dip, please. And I'll have fries with that.
Yes.
And can I get a black and white shake, please? And water for both of us.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you very
All
much.
right, thanks
Cheers.
very much.
Yeah,
So it's not. What I mean is, this
Right.
isn't one where they've gone, oh, they're doing very well. We'll just do a very similar version
no,
of it. Okay, good. No, I was just double checking.
I think they might have got backers on board based on that, but those ones tend to be from.
It was a little bigger budgeted, I thought.
Yeah, it was, but those ones tend to be usually about families or like forgotten places.
Right.
Again, like more Stephen King like those ideas.
Right.
A lot of them like in small towns that have been forgotten, or the family home that's got
States
something.
nobody cares about.
Right, exactly.
Sorry, people living in Connecticut.
Or it's like families that.
Right, but it's fine. You answered my question. It's not.
But this one is more. It seems to be more about. Like it was very, and whether or not it's filmed in New York, we're still not absolutely sure.
No. I mean, a lot of it wasn't.
Okay,
There was a lot of it that was, but I think there was a lot of it that wasn't.
But this one was much more like those 70s ones you're talking about, where it was much more about moving around the city.
It was 70s because it was urban. It was 70s because it was urban. Like something like The Sentinel or whatever, the Michael Winner thing where the apartment is the gateway to hell, or something like what's the George C. Scott one again?
Thank you.
The Changeling.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean that's I think that's up in New England, but even so, it's still like an urban horror.
Well, and
it's not an urban horror in the sense of like those ones I did on the blog recently, like Chud or Maniac Cop. Like it's not like that.
No, this one seems to be more like the idea of the ones where it's like set in the houses or in the small towns is the idea of being trapped and being under siege by something that you can't escape from. Whereas this was more like
if anything,
the kid's been taken, right?
Right.
And what was cool about.
We need to back it up because we're
you're right, but just very quickly, just to finish this, because about like what kind of film it is.
Right.
His kid's been taken. We've already established that.
Yeah, it's
and the reason like the urban setting works is at least for the first half of the movie, in fact, the first 3 quarters of the movie, he doesn't have any answers. He's got nowhere to look, and that feeling of him being like adrift and lost in the city, like no clues and no ideas, and like maybe his son's there and maybe he isn't, but there isn't a feeling of him being like close to an answer. Like there's a feeling in that, like the bit when the son is lost and Cage is just kind of also lost, where it's desolation. You know, like the city is desolation.
Yeah, thinking about it now, post movie, I would argue that New York seems like a bizarre choice, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Maybe it's an interesting choice because it's not on the nose. On the nose would be Boston, right? Because you have Salem right by it, right? It's still a turn of the. It's still a start of the country city. It's still like one of the founding cities, a historical city. Has way more Irish immigrants, and this whole thing was about Samhain and the Irish pagan mythologies.
Right.
And so, with the Irish overtones, the fact that you needed like old churches and stuff to still exist, the fact that on Halloween night people would be prancing around in robes and stuff, that's all Salem, Boston feeling. That's not fully New York. Now, I understand that if you've got to have a kid taken in the middle of a street fair or carnival or parade. What's meant to be? It's meant to be the parade. They have like the big skeletons and stuff like that. Like it's meant to be the Greenwich Village Halloween parade. That maybe they thought like, you know, New York's just a bigger city. More kids go missing from New York. There's more possibilities of where they could be and what could be happening than if it was in Boston, which is a very small town. You know, after a year, it wouldn't be. So I don't know why they. What I'm saying is New York seemed like a funny pick considering witch trials and start of the country stuff. And, you know, Pilgrims, Founding Fathers and all that. It's a lot.
I agree with you. The one thing that puzzled me about it is if it wasn't filmed, if a lot of it was filmed elsewhere, unless it was filmed in Canada, which I doubt somehow, because it didn't look terribly played.
No, it was actually filmed in Toronto, which last time I checked is still in Canada.
Like you're saying, given the story, but if it wasn't New York, then they spent a lot of time and trouble parking the 3 New York cabs that they, you know, bought or rented or whatever.
Right, the MTA bus.
In the background. Which is like, well then why just film it wherever you're filming? Like,
but and a lot of it was filmed in New York. I mean, unless they superimposed World Trade Center 1 and unless they imposed...
They might have done, but I didn't look, that part didn't look superimposed.
They definitely superimposed the Queensboro Bridge? No, Manhattan Bridge.
I wonder if, in answer to your question, my suspicion is it was either the screenplay was set in New York or the director wanted to make something in New York. It's based on a novella, so maybe the novella was set in New York. But it could just be that if it's a foreign film, like if it's foreign money, and it looked like a lot of the producers were Russian or Eastern European or something, then maybe the idea of setting it in New York is what makes the business abroad. I don't know, like versus like if you were going to.
That's a wild speculation, but yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, why else? You know, unless you're kind of trying to sell it, what would be the...
Well, the only other reason to do it would be what we're talking about, to conjure up that evocative feeling of like 70s, because a lot of the...
Which is true, but given the low budget
Rosemary's Baby is New York, The Sentinel is New York.
And it did work. I thought quite a lot throughout Wolfen. Like it reminded me
Wolfen is New York, right.
So anyway, you're right, we should go back to we should talk about what happened in the movie.
Right.
Do you want to take it? Because I feel like this...
The only reason I brought it up is I found that while I enjoyed the New York setting, because so much of it obviously wasn't shot in New York, just obviously wasn't, like just the empty streets and the fact that they went, oh, there's a little church downtown, and like I happen to know, like the little churches downtown are not surrounded by courtyards in which people can cavort in robes on Halloween. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and there's no places where you can like go underground and like there's huge, great tunnels with things and mad blind rats.
No, I think those could probably exist somewhere in New York. There's enough abandoned buildings, even downtown, for that to...
Yeah, maybe in Brooklyn, but not where he was. Anyway, I mean, whatever. So, like downtown where he was, it's pretty tight down there.
That's true, but then I guess you have to say...
But you see, this is all coming from someone who now lives in New York.
Right, that's the point.
Like, that's the problem. If you didn't live... No, right, if I was back in...
Yeah, we didn't know. There's a World Trade Center, there's a bunch of yellow cabs, and there's an MTA bus. It's New York. You know,
yeah, right. Whereas I'm watching it, I'm going, that isn't New York, that isn't New York. So, yeah, maybe that's my fault. So ignore that then. But it still seemed odd just because of the storyline. But basically, the story is thus... it's Halloween night. Nic Cage is a slightly absentee father because he's been spending a lot of time at the college, which I think is meant to be Columbia, trying to become a tenured professor.
Yeah, which, by the way, other than that, has no bearing on it.
Has no bearing on it at all, except other than to say that when it's establishing two things. It's establishing that later on when they need Madam Exposition to crop up again...
Madam Exposition 2.
Yeah. She can, because, we've got access to, like, ancient libraries and wood carvings and whatever, right? So that's why he's a professor. Secondly, him being a tenured professor is him being absent, so that when he tells everybody, like, I wasn't neglecting the kid, like the kid got taken... Everyone's like, nah, yeah, but you've been a shitty father and blah, 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 blah. That's why.
Although that's never really played out.
Well, except that she leaves him His wife
that's
leaves
true,
him
I
for a
suppose.
year.
Yeah, I suppose. But I just mean in like that.
No, there are no big scenes
There are no
where
big
they
scenes
like. So he's a bit of an absentee father because he's been trying to become a
I didn't
tenured
get you
professor.
past
When he
2 minutes.
he becomes a tenured professor, he gets the letter, says he's a tenured professor, and he's promised his son that he'll do pumpkin carving and take his son out trick or treating. However, he's back late from the college. And just as he gets there, the mum is all pissed off, dragging the son into the house. He's got to go to bed. He's got school in the morning. And Nic Cage says, but I'm now a tenured professor. This changes the mood. She's all happy. The kid's like, please let me go to the carnival, which they keep calling a carnival and a fair instead of a parade, which I don't really understand because
because it didn't move. It stayed in that place. It stayed in that street. It was more like a street fair, is what it was like, because it was only in that
Right,
street. And
but that doesn't happen.
No, I know it doesn't happen. I'm just saying it's not. It wasn't a parade because it was in one place.
Right.
He's able to return to it later and go back the next year. It's all in that one side street, which
Right.
maybe happens, in those neighbourhoods downtown. I can believe that.
It's right anyway.
I can believe they shut down one street, like one block.
It's right by where they live anyway.
Yeah.
And it has the hustle and bustle vibe, or it's meant to have the hustle and bustle vibe of the yearly Greenwich Village Halloween parade.
Yeah.
And they are meant to live downtown. They are in a brownstone downtown.
Yeah, it feels kind of villagey.
Villagey, that's what it's meant to be. And so Nic Cage goes, sure, I'll take my son. Goes down there. He's dressed as a ludicrous Elvis-like cowboy, which I was really hoping that meant that he was going to do a lot of like bonkers Nic Cage stuff. It didn't. Anyway, has his son on his shoulders. All's going well. The son's videotaping. Blah 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 blah. They get to the ice cream van. He's put him down on the ground, but he's like, "You must keep holding my hand. Like you must look up. Like stay close to me." Blah 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 blah. So he is doing his like best to keep him close to him, but he's got to like pay for the ice cream. And the moment he pays for the ice cream, even though he does it very quickly and says like keep the change or whatever, when he looks down, his kid's gone. In the lead up to this, the kid's seen a bunch of premonitions of like black shadows and big birds, hawks and things, or
Eagle, like an eagle, right?
eagle, or like
maybe?
a vulture or whatever. So the kid's been having a few premonition, and anyway, so the kid goes. Cut to a year later, Nic Cage is living in another apartment somewhere in a cheaper part of town by the looks of it. He's covered the walls with like posters of missing kids and the trail that he's tried to find his son and whatever, none of which again is ever really referenced, because what exactly
you never even see a close-up of the ball, because what's he got out there?
What exactly is the trail that he's been following?
Unless it's like a bunch of post-it notes with question marks on them, I don't really see what else he could be looking at.
So and why he hasn't just got it on his laptop. So we see a bit of Cage like trying to reconnect with his wife. We see Nic Cage trying to speak to the police guy who says, look, we're trying to do all we can, but there's no leads in this case. And then is the next thing he sees him on the bus, right?
Yeah.
So he's putting up posters and he sees him on the bus. Oh, before the kid was taken, the kid says to the dad,
Can
we pay the ghost, right? Says it's in his head. So he sees the kid on the bus. The bus takes him all the way. The kid is not really on the bus. The bus takes him all the way to the Manhattan Bridge, all the way out to the East River, I presume, where there is a building underneath the Manhattan Bridge in which he meets a crazy old blind dreadlock hobo, played by Stephen McHattie, who takes it, and on the front of their like corrugated iron hobo hovel, it's written "Pay the Ghost." So Cage follows down there. There's another wall covered in graffiti that also says "Pay the Ghost."
That's it, by the way.
What?
Well, I just remember, like, the guy takes it down and he goes, "Pay the ghost, what does that mean?" And then the guy goes, "Well, I guess it means just what it says." That's it, blind sage man.
Yeah, they leave all they leave all the exposition for the last 10 minutes of the movie.
Right.
So
there's no exposition at all for like 45 minutes an hour. Right?
So then he tries to talk to his wife and say, look, has the kid ever said anything that was like this? And the wife doesn't mention the fact that the kid got into her bed the night before Halloween to say that he saw a ghost in the bedroom. She doesn't mention that. Could have mentioned it, doesn't. So Cage then continues, finds out that more kids go missing and don't get returned on Halloween than any other night. Goes to speak to another of the parents. He says that his kid said "Pay the ghost." The policeman goes to a family in Chinatown, and the old woman says her kids had said something about a ghost. They start seeing reports in the police reports about kids saying that they saw phantoms. The wife has an experience in her brownstone where she's still living of the kid's scooter that we saw it on earlier, effectively moving by itself.
Right.
Cage and the wife re-team up together. They're now both fully convinced it's a supernatural thing, and they set about figuring it out, in which we get a medium strangled up against the wall and then burnt from the inside out. We get,
Which is pretty cool.
very cool, we get Nic Cage's wife possessed momentarily and then
That was also pretty
carving,
cool. That was
very,
one of the,
very
that was
well
one of
done,
two really big, nice scares.
carving a Celtic symbol in her arm. And then it just kind of goes on from there, and there's like mood piece, then scare, mood piece, then scare,
So-
movie, and then we have a big sort of denouement climax.
So, should we talk about what we liked or what we didn't?
What we liked.
Okay, well, I liked the 70s vibe of it. About 20 minutes in. No.
When we realised it wasn't going to be bonkers.
When we
Cage.
realised it wasn't going to be Bonkers Cage, and that thing where they cut to him in his apartment with the night school covered in stuff, like 1 year later, that was pretty cool.
Right.
I liked that. I liked the thing of him like wandering lost around the city, that with nothing but like determination, but no real clue of how to start or anything.
Right.
A few like generic bits in there, but it was
I
pretty
like
cool.
that they explained that the reason why he had a year of no leads whatsoever is that it's always the year after the kids are taken, the parents of the kids and people surrounding
Yeah.
the incident start to get flashes from the other side.
Yeah, but that was nice. It was
Because what it meant was,
Halloween.
right, what it meant was is that you could have the legitimate 1 year later. Whereas, like, if this should have been happening for a whole year, and it was only like we pick up the story 1 year later, and only then does he like figure out the pay the ghost stuff, you'd be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, he would have figured it out earlier.
Right.
But because what it is the kids can't reach out, and it's like.
Yeah, that's true,
Halloween is like the concentrated energy where the doorway is open between the ghost world and the real world. But then as you get further away from Halloween, the echoes get weaker and weaker and weaker. So he sees nothing of his kid for the whole year. But then in like the 3 or 4 days leading up to it, it goes from little flashes to like more and more and more intense stuff. To then
Well,
like
I
the Halloween.
think there's a feeling when he has the dream about the kid at the window. That's what begins the whole thing, and I guess there's
And that's 3 or 4 days out of Halloween.
Yeah. And
The whole movie takes place a year after the kidnapping, 3 or 4 days leading up to actual Halloween.
Yeah, because even the beginning of the movie is like 3 or 4 days before Halloween, or maybe like the day before, 2 days before. There's definitely like
There's 2 nights
the lead
before,
up, the lead up to Halloween.
he sees the kid sees a ghost, and he's late home from work,
Yeah, so it's the night before Halloween.
and then the next night is Halloween. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and those. Cage was pretty good in that he held the movie together, and he seemed to be interested in what he was doing as well. He wasn't sleepwalking through it. I didn't feel it.
No, not at all. All
Was
the
it-
actors were very engaged. Sarah, is it Callis?
I don't know. I didn't recognise her.
She's from Walking Dead. The first,
okay.
first 2 seasons.
I don't know.
Because she's Carl's, the kid's mum. 3 seasons, because I think she dies in the prison.
I don't know.
She dies
No.
giving birth to the second
I
kid.
never got past season 1, and I've forgotten everybody that was in it.
Yeah,
except
Sarah
for,
something Callies. Callies?
Yeah.
Callies? Something like that. Double battle name.
But they were all good. I could have used more McCarthy for sure, because I could always use more McCarthy.
Well, I tell you what it was. It was lacking a bonkers cameo. Like, another movie that I
Yeah.
really like in this vein, and it's another really good New York-based like horror thriller, and that's although Keanu Reeves is pretty awful in it, that's Devil's Advocate. I've always really kind of like dug that movie,
yeah.
right? And I really like End of Days as well,
I
with
love End of
Arnie
Days,
and
yeah,
whatever.
it can't be a bit of End of
And
Days.
in those 2 movies, the thing that like typifies those 2 movies and the thing that makes them as enjoyable as they are, I mean, yeah, you have the effects and blah, 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 but you also have the fact that everyone in there is just having an absolute ball with this somewhat hokey but somewhat enjoyable script.
Fallen
Right,
is the same.
Fallen's the same. So, you have like Pacino is just loving it, like he's going balls to the wall. Jeffrey Jones is like suitably bizarre in it. Delroy Lindo is the guy who's like sacrificing goats, is suitably mumbo jumbo-esque. In Devil's Advocate, Charlize Theron is like hysteria out the window. And the same goes for End of Days. Like Arnie and Kevin Pollak and Gabriel Byrne are all just... It's just... Oh, and the old priest dude, the old 70s actor who shouts and everything, Rod Steiger.
Oh, Steiger, that's
Steiger is being proper Steiger to the max. So, like, this movie lacked that.
Yeah, it did. It lacked a little bit of energy.
It didn't need Cage to do that, but instead of it being some, like, hot Danish blonde number who was this other professor...
Why was she cast? Because she couldn't really speak English, and she definitely couldn't act.
What if it was like a dusty old Broadbent type? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she was only in 2 scenes. It could have been like a dusty old
and all
Broadbent.
she did was like Captain Exposition.
Right.
That would have been fun.
And if it was like like Michael, like the best thing we liked about the Witch Hunter Vin Diesel trailer was the fact that crazy old Michael Caine plays the guy who shows up at the beginning, sitting in a leather chair, going, "Well, I'll tell you what, Vin Diesel, you're about to go hunt witches." Like that's all you need, right?
What you need to do is you need to find somebody who was reasonably big in the 80s, who hasn't made a film in 10 years, and you go, "Here you go, you're probably a bit mad. Could you be really mad for 5 minutes?"
Right. So you had that role you could have filled with a professor.
Not the Exorcist.
You had
the medium.
The medium who could have been a lot more interesting.
Because the problem with the medium scene, and it's a bit of a problem with the whole movie, is that it had like lots of effective scares, and the scare with the medium was pretty cool too.
Very cool.
But there wasn't enough build up to it. It was just like, oh, the medium's come in, so now something spooky's going to happen, and then something spooky happened. There wasn't like to distract you from that, like a bit of overacting or whatever, you know.
No, the best build up.
Thank you very much.
Give me a minute, I have to make you a milkshake.
Oh, no problem. And the dip.
The French dip.
Or, yeah, grab it.
The most effective was when he found her in the bedroom, because it had that wonderful like green lighting and super mist, but like not a heavy mist, but just light enough that you were like, okay, the second level of this house doesn't look normal. It was just like a waft of mist. So it's from the wafting of mists to a brief message here in the middle of this week's episode of the After Movie Diner to say, hey, you're a discerning podcast listener, you're listening to the After Movie Diner, you're enjoying it, you're taking it in, you're having a bit of a chuckle, you're wondering, shall I watch this Nic Cage movie or not? Probably. These guys seem to think it's alright. They're about to say even more positive things after this advert, I'm sure of it. So maybe I will. But you might be thinking, what can I do to support these two fellas who have gone out of their way to watch this movie, gone to a diner, had to spend money on the food, they then have to upload it, make a fancy website, put lots of energy and time and work into it? What can I do to show my appreciation? Well, you can rate and review us on iTunes or Stitcher or Spreaker or YouTube or wherever you find the podcast. That's a really great way. Rate and review, rate and review, rate and review. Costs you absolutely no money whatsoever, but it would be a great way for you to spread the name of the podcast to far and wide. And the other way you can do it is to go over to www.patreon.com/aftermoviediner. That's patreon.com/aftermoviediner. And donate just as little as $1 per show so that we can continue doing it, bringing you the best podcast available, update our equipment, update our website, and maybe even come to a town near you in 2016. Wouldn't that be fun? Do all those good things and keep the diner afloat, why don't you? I tell you what this movie had going for it more than any other aspect of it, and that was the cinematography. Cinematography was top notch. Like even when the blonde Danish professor was wandering around like the top level
of the
statue and everything, but the light coming through the old college building and the pillars and everything, it was lit really well. And also, think about it, until we even see the ghost towards the end of the movie, the rest of the time it's represented in like cool shadow work and stuff.
Yeah, although That's
or
true.
like a
And the,
mist, or like a light, or like something.
Even the scare in the Chinese restaurant, that was pretty spooky too, because you got a feeling of being trapped in the restaurant, how narrow it was, how tiny the space was.
Right.
And so when that flame scare happened, it was really effective.
Yeah.
It did seem to reach out for them.
Yeah.
And it was because they were in this long, narrow. They obviously thought about it because they're in this long, narrow restaurant.
Yeah.
The flame coming towards them is that much more spooky, because it's I can't explain it, but it's playing into that claustrophobia being in that narrow space.
But it was also like a strong element of danger. That's what I got from it more than a scare. I got more like, it was actual sort of...
And it looked good too.
Looked very good.
And not only the effects were great, but that one was good.
That one was good, yeah. And I like the...
I love the bridge. The best thing about the movie, in my opinion, in terms of like a mythology, like something about a horror film that you're going to remember. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like in Nightmare on Elm Street, it's... Because I watched that again recently, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
And it's the...
thank you, my friend.
It's the fact that the whole film plays out in the backyards.
Great.
In the little dirty alleyways where the rubbish bins are. That's where it all happens.
Right.
But in this one, if I had to take anything away from it, it's when he has to cross between worlds.
Right.
They do have a literal bridge across this dark, foggy chasm.
Uh-huh.
And there was a bit in it when he's tiptoeing across the bridge, and Crossy said, "All right, Nick, speed up, but you've only got till midnight to get back."
Right.
And then they cut to right at that moment. They cut to his point of view, and he's waving a torch, and all there is in front of him is this grey mist about 3 feet away.
Right.
And all he could think of, I'm not sure I'd be moving very quickly into the impenetrable grey mist that I'm almost certain now contains murderous ghost.
Right.
But that whole thing of him edging across the bridge, literally a bridge between worlds, it's across a foggy chasm, was super cool. I know it was literal, but I'm going to remember that.
Right, and but what was nice was, it was like a bridge that you would see maybe across a subway line or something. Like it was a corrugated, metal urban bridge.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't like a spooky wooden thing or something that was... It was like, we're going to extend the city as far as we can.
Like Rococo bridge. It was you're right, it was the city was breathing into its own path, which was nice.
Right. And him stepping off onto the grass...
That was really cool, because everything went quiet. That was such a cool effect. All the music went down.
I thought the score was very effective. I thought the cinematography was very effective. I thought that the two leads, and even the copper, were doing strong.
The copper was pretty good. They were doing heavy
strong,
lifting.
but for my particular taste, too serious.
Yeah,
but no, that's not a bad thing. I just mean that my taste would be make the copper like a schlubby kind of guy. That he's doing his job, but at the same time he's a bit of a like I would have just populated the rest of the movie with shambolic characters.
I agree. I think that was the trouble, is that the emotional weight of the characters was all the same.
Right.
They were all a bit mopey, all a bit beaten down by the city.
And because there were so many aspects of this movie that weren't realistic, the idea of having to kind of somehow maintain realism through slightly dull performances is not really necessary.
No, and if anything, it makes the whole them just going, oh right, well I guess it's supernatural then, a bit more difficult to swallow. Whereas if they were a little bit balmy, then you could feel it. Yeah, and Cage was just a smidge too mopey. I mean, he did the job right, and he was good, and he did carry the movie, and he did what he was supposed to do. But I'm just not that big a fan of Mopey Cage. Like we were saying when we were watching it, it's like Cage in the middle of Face Off, when all you're thinking is, yes, but I'd prefer to see you having loads of fun instead of being Mopey Cage.
Right.
Because I don't really care for Mopey Cage.
No. Let Mopey Cage out of his cage.
No, Mopey Neeson I can watch over and over and over again.
Right.
I can't get enough of Mopey Neeson, but Mopey Cage is not the same thing.
But I felt it had something of sort of the Sentinel meets the Wicker Man meets the original Wicker Man, not the horrible Nic Cage remake thing about it. I felt like you and I felt a little bit like the third act exposition was a little too convenient. And I think what I could have done with is I could have done with aspects of that dribbled throughout. So while I was invested in the story of him getting back with his wife and getting his son back, like I did want it to happen.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
You could have dribbled, like, imagine if it was more like a kind of Zodiac-like story where he like picks up bits of clues here and there
I have
throughout
to say,
the movie.
I think, okay, if I was going to like do a balmy rewrite of it, if someone was to come to me and say we need this like punched up or whatever, the first thing I would do is I would like you're saying, I would have the exposition spread out amongst not only throughout the movie but also throughout the city. Like have him visit different places and meet like different balmy characters, you know. Because the guy sat in there, like the heroin addict sat in his flat, who talks to them. That was quite I mean, it could have been handled a bit better, but it was still pretty creepy. And
yeah,
it was kind of cool, the idea of like, well, that's what this is. Like, it was an effective. This is what you're going to be like if you don't solve this year, kind of
right?
Thing, you know what I mean? Because when he said it all stopped after that year, that was it.
Right.
That was pretty effective. But, you know, there could have been more of that. And the other thing I would have done is I would have had Cage be a bit more balmy. And I definitely wouldn't have let him take the cowboy outfit off. I would have made him do the whole film doing this, like, slightly balmy, supernatural private investigator thing,
right,
dressed in the same Halloween cowboy outfit that he refuses to take off. You know? That's what I would do. That would be my movie. And everybody that he goes to visit would be played by somebody balmy from the 80s.
Right. Busey.
Busey should have been in it. Definitely. More McHattie. McHattie's really good, and he was only in it for like 5 minutes. He was in Pontypool. Do you ever see that?
No.
Pontypool's really good.
There was enough filmed actually in New York, or seemingly filmed in New York. You can't really tell with the aid of CGI, because I mean the World Trade Center could have been CGI'd in, I don't know, but like...
No, I don't think that was. I think the bridge was, but not that. But the thing is, like, even though the balmy Nic Cage dressed in the cowboy outfit tramping around the city would have been a very cool movie. I was talking more of the movie I was hoping to see. This was still really good. It was still a good horror film. And there's not, you know, there are ones I consider as well, and they're good fun, but a lot of them are crap. A lot of them are cat jumping, you know, from the windowsill and the sudden reflection in the bathroom mirror and all that hokey nonsense. At least most of the scares were new ones, like ones I hadn't seen before.
Right. There was no shaky cam.
Except when Nic Cage was running.
Right, but that was only
because you can't have the camera stand... I don't think the camera could stand still when Nic Cage was running.
No, Nic Cage
probably
running
causes a small earthquake when he runs.
Yeah, Nic Cage running is a bit like watching... Well, it was a bit like Dolph Lundgren running in that other movie we watched, Skin Trade.
But there were definitely parts of it where Nic Cage looked like...
He had something unfortunate up his posterior.
No, he looked like a 20-year-old, or like 25, 30-year-old Nic Cage wearing a fat suit to make him look older, in an older movie. That's
right.
Kind of what he looked like.
Uh-huh.
Like, not his face didn't look quite real in quite a lot of it, you know what I mean?
Well, I'm not sure his face is real anymore.
His hair's mad. He's got like evil hair.
His hair's mad and everything because it's a wig.
Is it?
Of course it is, dude.
Well, I guess that makes sense. But he does look like he's got evil hair.
His real hair is more like him leaving Las Vegas.
I'm not sure I remember that.
But no, yeah, so sorry, this sounds like we're being a bit down on the movie.
No, I enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very atmospheric. I thought it had a good script, a good idea. I liked the way it played out. And Cage was watchable and serviceable in it.
Yeah.
And, you know, were there a little bit of things that we could question and look at? Yeah, of course, there was kind of bound to be. But for whatever the budget was, which was probably 2 or 3 million, I would imagine, maybe a bit more, maybe more like 5 to 8 million, I thought they did a very, very, very good job. It's very daunting to either film in New York and or replicate New York in some way.
Yeah.
And I think that although we know as now being New Yorkers, we know that a lot of it wasn't, they did a bloody good job to try and like match it all together. Their street looked authentic. When he was putting posters up around town, looked authentic. The diner looked authentic. Like, everything about it looked pretty good.
Yeah, and it did feel like you were in that city with them and with him, and that's quite effective. That's not an easy trick to pull off.
No, not at all.
And they didn't make it look They didn't make it look glossy.
There's always stuff that you wish would happen in these movies.
It was kind of grimy too, like as in like it had that feeling of that New York thing of it being a bit of a grimy, functional city, which it is for the most part.
Right.
There wasn't much in the way of romance about it. Although now that I think about it, that bridge, that's quite a neat. Thinking back to it, the place where he goes, has the Manhattan Bridge.
Goes bit, yeah.
Yeah, but has the Manhattan Bridge over it, leading off into the distance.
Yeah.
Which is what he's going into too. Like that's the entrance to another bridge, which is quite a cool little foreshadowing thing that I'd only just realised.
Sure.
Which it had that functional feeling of New York that can be quite escapist almost.
Right.
I just sit back and admire how beautiful you look. It was dragging you into it.
I just watch something like this and I go, I wish it was made by like 8mm era Schumacher or the Gift era Raimi or something like that. Like I just wish it was made by someone. The cinematographer was right on the money, but the director needed to ramp up the pace just a little bit.
It needed a little bit of mischief.
Yeah.
There wasn't enough of that. There wasn't enough of like some old-fashioned, like, we've got to give the punters something to like laugh at.
Not laugh at, but like...
No, but a little comic, like those eccentric, larger-than-life characters turn up to give the audience a bit of relief, like they're a bit of comic relief. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's what they're there for. I could have used a bit of that. And I still don't understand why they hired that Danish girl. Like, she had absolutely nothing going for her.
But did you notice that every single woman in the movie was gorgeous?
Well,
everyone in the carnival was gorgeous. Everyone in his class at the beginning of the movie was like gorgeous. Every single woman in the movie was like a 9 or a 10. Every single woman in the movie.
Right. I'm not going to... I'm not sure I can go along with that rest of the paragraph.
Well, except the homeless woman, but we only see her for a minute.
No, I'm just saying... I didn't really get that.
No, dude, seriously, during that opening scene when it was panning over his classroom of like adoring, doty followers, because apparently he was like a rock star professor at the beginning of the movie.
He was a rock star professor.
Right? The likes of which you haven't seen since Harrison Ford. They were all the women in the audience were like kind of model-esque quality. Then he had this blonde, totty Danish professor friend.
I don't know where you're getting this from. Like,
and then everyone in the carnival was the same.
The Danish bird looked like, I don't know, like she could have been a geography teacher out of the bill. Like,
okay, that's ridiculous.
No, I'm telling you, she was bland as all get out. That's what I'm saying. She was bland. She couldn't speak English. She couldn't act for toffee. I had no idea what she was doing in the movie. If we're just going to hire her on looks alone, you're not telling me you couldn't do better than that.
Well, I don't know.
There's a better looking, more talented Danish actress within 100 metres of this diner than her.
Okay. I'm not saying she was like drop dead gorgeous. I'm saying they had given her the look of being like a hot, feisty Danish professor. Whether she was or not is another thing. I'm saying.
I think I understand the final shot, by the way.
What?
Well, given what we were talking about, i.e. that things are done to people in the past, and those people come back to seek revenge, and that's how stories are created. I don't think her, at the end, she's necessarily a continuation of that story. I think she's supposed to be a new story, i.e. her mistreatment at the hands of the ghost. Because what did she really do? Nothing.
Yeah, her death was just how do we...
Yeah, like in 100 years she's going to be like seeking women who whatever, like it'll be a new chapter, it'll be a new story. Like the city makes a new monster kind of thing, rather than it being the ghosters are still alive or whatever. I don't think that was it.
Okay. That's an interesting way to look at it.
That's my theory.
You stick to it, sir.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I really did. I enjoyed it start to finish, even though I would have done things differently had I been in charge. It would have been a totally different movie had that happened. It would have been balmy and weird and all over the place, but it would have been fun. But they weren't going for that here, and they could have done, presumably. As soon as they got Nic Cage on board, a part of them must have gone, should we turn the balm up to 11? Because we could.
Up to Cage levels.
Yeah, up to Cage level balm.
Right.
But they clearly thought, no, and maybe Cage,
And yeah,
He's obviously engaged.
within the vibe, he was definitely an engaged Cage.
He was engaged.
Within the vibe of a Rosebud's Baby, Sentinel, Wicker Man, Death Wish, even kind of 70s thing, it worked.
Yeah. I think Glickenhaus would enjoy it.
Glickenhaus would have given it a strong 3.
Obviously, Glickenhaus would have added explosions.
The Chinese restaurant, the frying pan wouldn't have just burst into flames. Everything would have burst into flames. And the cop would have been blown backwards in a seating position through a plate glass window at the front of the restaurant.
Yes, he would.
Right, only to land on top of a car, bruised but relatively unharmed.
And then tell a story about a dog.
Right, and then Peter Weller would be playing a bebopping college professor, getting all
who should have been the college professor, a bebopping Weller.
Listen, you could say, put Peter Weller in this movie. It doesn't matter what the role is. It doesn't matter what the movie is.
No.
It's instantly better. Weller...
The story of Jesus, starring Peter Weller.
Everything. I tell you what, I challenge our audience to come up with a movie that isn't made better by Peter Weller. Easy to come up with a movie that is made better by Peter Weller. Which movie does Peter Weller not improve? I'm betting there isn't one out there.
I think you could be right. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I can't think of one where Weller isn't amazing. It makes the movie better.
If I said a genetically enhanced Peter Weller fights Godzilla, you want to see that movie instantly. Not even a genetically enhanced, just Peter Weller with his flugelhorn.
Yes, Peter Weller plus flugelhorn versus Godzilla, I would watch.
Right, in a heartbeat. He's the only reason to watch that Gary Daniels turgid piece of crap, Born to Fight.
I never saw that.
He cropped up in that Van Damme one.
Which he improved.
Because he improves everything.
With Dragon Eyes, right?
Something like that. He also cropped up in a Gary Daniels one, which was like, I don't know, to get money to pay for his son's face or something. Gary Daniels had to fight in an underground kickboxing ring for Peter Weller's evil, slumlord or something.
Sounds about right. That sounds the least imaginative movie plot of all time. We've got a guy who can do martial arts. What movie should we make?
Yeah.
That one, again.
And Peter Weller just wore rectangle purple sunglasses.
Of course he did.
And just bebopped his way through.
I'm guessing when you hire Weller these days, you also hire whatever he fancies wearing to the shoot that day. Because I seem to remember in the Van Damme one, him wearing a series of increasingly balmy outfits and sunglasses as well.
I can't thank John enough.
He's become. You know who he's become?
I can't thank John enough publicly for the Woods and Weller thing. Because while Woods has turned into a complete arsehat who I wouldn't piss on if he was on fire, because he's one of the most offensively idiotic people on Twitter that I've ever read, next to Mike Huckabee. Weller, on the other hand, has only grown in my estimation with every single minute of film I've seen him on. And his interview with Kevin Pollak is one of the most watchable of the Kevin Pollak chat shows, because it's just Weller sat there going, and here's another exceedingly riveting thing that I do with my life that you can't quite believe RoboCop is like a doctor of Italian Renaissance fine art and stuff. And he also plays the flute.
I've never seen it.
Amazing.
I'm gonna have to watch
and he calls people like Baby and Cat and bebops his way through the interview. It's amazing.
He is brilliant.
So now I just have nothing but an ending supply of love for Peter Weller.
I would say this about this movie, going back to it. One of the things about Nic Cage's career has always been, when I can't remember what the movie was. Probably The Rock was when I decided I can't get enough of Nic Cage being over the top.
Right.
And that lasted for a while, and I can't remember when it was that he stopped being interesting.
Ghost Rider 2 was the last time he was really off the hook.
But Ghost Rider 2 was the first time in a while.
Yeah, Ghost Rider 2 was the one where he's like, it's swallowing my brain, or whatever he does, like that crazy bit.
He kind of...
Outcast. We haven't seen Outcast yet, but I bet he's off the hook in that one.
Which one's Outcast?
That's the one where he plays the White Dragon Knight or something.
Oh yeah, I did really want to see
Him and Bland
I
Christensen.
do like him being bonkers, but there were too many films of him being like obviously not engaged in a like badly written film.
Yeah, like Frozen.
Usually set in New Orleans.
It's like Frozen Ground was pretty awful.
Yeah, Cage and Cusack in a film in Alaska.
Yeah, that was pretty awful. And what was the one he did that I quite liked in New Orleans, where his kid got
Oh yeah, that was pretty good.
taken?
In the back of the cab.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was alright, that one. I can't remember what it was called though. Wasn't it called like Stolen? It was basically taken, but they just Stolen. I think it was called Stolen.
Yeah, it was called Stolen. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was quite fun. And
What's
I don't
another
mind
word
him.
for taken?
I don't mind him sitting in New Orleans making. And I liked Port of Call, New Orleans was a good one.
That's amazing.
So I don't mind him sitting in New Orleans
Shoot him
making
again.
balmy
His
films.
soul's still dancing.
Yeah, you know what? I've got no problem with him making balmy films. I quite like him making balmy films.
No, are you kidding? I love that we're in an era where Cage has 3 movies out a year.
Yeah, that's
Because you don't have to wait long to see if another good one comes
Didn't
along.
he lose just like tons and tons of money, like hundreds of millions?
On the tax stuff. And also on an apartment castle that he built in New York. That he
That's
had
right.
in New York. He owned in New York.
He built a castle, didn't he? He was
No, he owns a castle overseas. I think either in England or in Europe somewhere. But he had a really expensive apartment in New York which he couldn't maintain either. That was like millions of dollars a year or something. And he lost out money on his apartment. He had tax issues which he owed a bunch for, and then the castle went into like disrepair. He sold off, like he had Superman #2 or something. He had like a really early comic book that was worth millions, and he had to sell that. Yeah.
wow. Poor old Cage.
There was probably some alimony as well. I honestly don't know. None of
There's
this is
usually
accurate.
some kind of shifty accountant as well. Like they go, don't worry, I've got. Oh, it says here I have nothing.
Yeah.
Like poor old Leonard Cohen has to come back from being a Buddhist.
Really?
Yeah, do you not know about that?
No, I don't know.
Leonard Cohen retired from music, right, and basically went to live in a monastery for 20 years until he found out his accountant nicked all his money. And he was broke, flat broke, and he had to come back out. That's why he came back out and did a movie about being Leonard Cohen and did a whole bunch of tours and recorded new music because he had no bleeding money. It was all nicked by his
Jesus.
accountant, who like was his friend.
It's pretty rough, right?
Yeah, and it was like, but
I don't know what happened to Nic Cage. I mean, there's something there, but
yeah, I mean he is obviously a bit mad. Let's face it.
yeah.
But they also make so much money as well. Like there was a point where, I mean, most actors, including Cusack, I imagine, retired and could retire on just Con Air money alone. You know.
But no, I agree. It was a good, strong, maybe 3.5 star movie. Nic Cage was strong, cinematography strong, good ideas. I like the Celtic aspect of it.
Properly nice scares, really memorable imagery. The thing with the bridge,
Held together.
nice atmosphere. Like pulled you into the story, had you going along. I enjoyed the experience of watching. Like a good 3-star movie that I really enjoyed, and yeah, I would definitely watch it. I thought it was a good little horror film, a
Definitely.
good little New York horror film.
James Wallace, the After Movie Diner.
Thanks very much.
Bitty. And that was the After Movie Diner. And wasn't it fun, children? Okay, and now to play us out, it's music available on miskplumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com. Go buy some. Support the show. This song features Jay Mayo on the guitar. We're lawyers, we're on motorbikes. Tell us your pain, we'll understand, yeah. Get some roadside food from these handful of places. It's hungry work traveling the land. There's a sign for everything by the road tonight, but no sign of you anywhere. And if you're up ahead on this road tonight, Well, I hope that you are taking care. Find your sort of place where it just feels right. Please tell me you'll wait there for me. You'll be waiting there for me, for me. There's proof of God, another billboard declares. Frightened baby, a Bible reading. Losing your hair is a choice. At our clinic we've found the answer. We'll give you back your youth for bundles of cash if you're balding at the back or if you're receding. Or if you're both. There's signs for everything by the road tonight, but no sign of you anywhere. And if you're up ahead on the road tonight, well, I hope that you are taking care. Oh yeah, yeah. Find your sort of place where it just feels right. Please tell me you're waiting there for me. You're waiting there for me. Wait there, baby. Wait there, baby. Wait there for me. There we go.